Now, getting into it, we are going to talk about Frankenmeshing first, because that was something we had left over from last week. Like if you wanted to combine a plant and like a pot, how you would do that. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna hop right into it. I've pulled sort of this pot I like and sort of this plant top I like. And what I'm gonna do is we are gonna open up our cheat console. Did you know Sims 4 Studio has a cheat console? Yes, it does. Just like The Sims, Control-Shift-C. I'm gonna open up our cheat console and we're gonna go studio dot export all. What this is gonna do is it's gonna export all of our materials that are in the package into a neat little folder wherever you have your package file. Thanks, just like that. Plant and pot resources. So if we open this up, we see that we have all our LODs. We also have all our swatches. This is going to be helpful for us. This is going to be a secret tool we use for later. That way we have all of our swatches ready to go and we don't have to pull them individually one by one. When we pull these into the blender, we'll see that we have a couple cuts on these as our other one built. So it looks like this one's just an alpha, a Fong alpha, and a shadow. Well, not Fong alpha. Let me check. So the difference between Fong and Fong alpha, we kind of talked about it last time. Fong, you can do transparency, but it's kind of it's either you're transparent or you're not. There's no sort of blending or in between. Fong alpha is when you get into sort of the glass and like semi-transparent things or like a sheer curtain. You usually use Fong for plants. So these two are set up differently, so we have to decide which file we want to use to build our plant. So I'm just going to hide our plant part and then I'm going to go and grab it from this. It's going to be really easy. What we need to do is grab the leaves of our plant, which we can do by hitting 3 to go into face mode. And selecting these all with L, and that's kind of a tiresome process. So another way we can select things is by going into our UV map here and hitting this UV sync select button and just kind of box selecting all of these. And I'm just holding shift to box select all of that. And then I can hit P, I can hit separate selection, and boom, our leaves are separated. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy that in object mode. We're going to come over here, still in object mode, paste it right on. Okay, it's a little low. That's fine. We're going to fix it. Also, we might want to like merge some of these verts because it might be a little bit sharp because it came freshly out of Sims 4 Studio. And then now is the point where you get to like, how big do I want this plant to be? Now is the point where you come over here and you say, how big do I want this plant to be? And I'm also going to set this instead for transform orientation to global. I'm going to set it to our cursor because our cursor's down here. So I can just, I'm going to just kind of make this. I think I want it to be a little bit bigger. I think that's nice, actually. I think I'm good. I'm happy with that size. So the next thing you need to think about when you are Frankenmeshing two EA objects together is UVs. It's very important. These are from the same kit, so I wouldn't be actually surprised if their UVs didn't actually work really well together. Let's see. Seems like no. So we've got our, and the way I did that, I just select both of the objects at once, and then I went into edit mode with tab, and I'm able to see both of the UVs at the same time on the same map. So we can actually go down here, and we can look at our original map right here, and if we just select the pot, so here's our pot. And since this is our object we're working off of, we can move it, but if we can keep it kind of where it is, you just want to create the least amount of work for yourself when you go in to fix the textures. So I think I'll leave this, or I'll try to at least, and then I will move these guys. So since there are so many of them, and we have to kind of, whenever I'm moving UVs, I try to keep it, like I said, as simple as I can for myself. So I will try to not scale them willy-nilly, and I'll try not to move them individually. I'll try to keep them as a group as much as I can. But at a certain point, you're gonna have to move some stuff. So we have UVs being used here, here, here. We can actually go back to both of these guys and look at them together. So we have these here. I'm thinking maybe we take these two smaller things, stack them together, put them right here. Alternatively, we can move this dark circle over here. So we're gonna have to do some moving around of textures in Photoshop, but not too much. So I'm actually going to keep these all together. I'm using circle select to just deselect that bit. I'm gonna do this as much as I can. And if I have to scale this down, I want to do it in like a precise way. So I don't want to just hit scale and start going for it. So I think I'll actually, let's try like 0.8, 5, maybe 0.9. Kind of like you're using tool. So let's see if I can get it with 0.9. Because basically anywhere in these maps, you either want it to be transparent or leaf. So I'd have to cut that. I'm just gonna, yeah, put that over there for now. Because I kind of want my leaves, the leaves are more of the more important parts of the plant. Like, you know, photosynthesis and stuff. And I want them to have a decent amount of texture space. So actually I'll try and line these up, I think, with where they were before. That way I don't have to move that half fully like that. And I will put, since this is just the bottom of the pot, so I'm just gonna scale that down and put it over here. And then for these two, I think I will stack them on top of each other like this. And see if I can shove them over here. Maybe probably rotate them by 90. Yeah, that'll be good. So you can see it's a combination of our two UV maps here. We just want to make sure they're not overlapping each other. This actually should be okay, but I'm going to double check and make sure we don't have, just, you know, while we're here, I want to make sure that our shading looks okay. I'm seeing some, just going to merge some of these things so it's a little bit smoother. Because you'll get, again, we talked about seams on objects last time. And I just want to double check. And then for the leaves, it shouldn't be too bad, but I will kind of merge by distance as well. We don't want them to actually merge. So this will be our new plant, and we just need to give this the same cut name, the cut number. Because if you remember, the plant we're working off of had its leaves separated out and it gave it a cut of 2. So I'm going to get rid of that so Studio doesn't get confused. And I can actually probably just delete this. And then we'll come back and I'll give this a cut of 2 as well. So Studio knows that's what it's importing. And I don't see anything untoward on the UV map. Sometimes if you move the UVs around, do UV1, it'll get confused, so I'll like delete the UV1. That could be an issue if you have an issue with your UVs, like something weird is happening in game, you don't know why. That can be maybe your issue, is you still have the old UVs living on your UV1. And a lot of objects don't really need a UV1, and so I'll just bring it in with just a UV0. So we'll call this our plant. New LOD 0. And if you're really fancy, you could do lower LODs, but this is an EA object. I'm not too worried about it because it doesn't really have that many faces to begin with. So I will go ahead, I will import our mesh we just made, and it's gonna look a mess, but that's okay, we're gonna fix it. She's fine. It's fine. But the important part is our pot is still there. We don't have to move that. And the bottom of it is looking okay. So now our next step is, let's see, what's our Shadow LOD looking like? We probably need to, let's see, that's going to be a weird Shadow LOD. So maybe I'll just bring the pot in as the Shadow LOD. That's just the plane. So they had the Shadow LOD as the planes of the plant as well as the pot. So we'll give that a go. But sometimes if you use reshade, you'll get those weird MXAO squares. So I don't know, it's up to you, really, how you want to do it. I'm going to save this immediately as something else, so I don't actually only save over my work. I'm going to call it Shadow LOD 0. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete the shadow plane. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to give this cut of 0 because that is our Shadow LOD cut usually, all the time. It'll import whatever is a 0. And we'll import it again. There we go. That's our new Shadow LOD. All right, so next step, we're almost there. Now we have to deal with our textures. So our texture does not match up to what we just did. So there's 3 textures here. We have our diffuse, our normal, and our spec. So I think our spec should be fine. We'll have a little bit of an issue here. Our normal, we're gonna have some issues with right here. So we can definitely try and cut those together. That's a little more advanced. If you just didn't want to do that, you could always just make it blank. But then your object would be kind of flat, so that's something to think about. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab our UVs here. So I have these both selected, or they're merged because we made a shadow LED, but I'm going to hit A to make these all selected. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go to UV. We're going to go export UV layout. And this is going to do, it's going to give us a PNG image of our UVs on the UV map in the right aspect ratio. And I usually just call this UVs. And this is going to be kind of our guide as we bring this into Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and start Photoshop, or any sort of image program, any image editor you can get your hands on, whether legally or illegally. And I'll take a sip of coffee. All right. So what we can do is I will probably start with our swatches, and sometimes I'll like squish my screen down in Windows so I can just do that and grab all of them. Oh, actually, you know what? We're gonna just pull one in. Otherwise, I would pull in a bunch of individuals. You can see how dang tiny they are. So small. So I'm gonna grab the rest of them. Yeah, I like to squish my screen so I can just do that. It's much faster. And then I'll just drag these in right on top. Hold down enter, have them all import. See how many colors of leaves we actually have. We got some variety. And this is where you can get like real funky with it. This is where your creativity shines, because you're gonna basically have to start pairing these together and the fun pot leaf combos. But we will need a couple of these groups, so I'll just hide this one for now, because that's when we're gonna have to cut up and move around. And then I will go ahead, I'll grab our pot resources, which I have squished already. Haha. And I can just grab and drag those in as well. You just hit enter, hold down, enter. And I tried to make this as reasonable for myself as possible, but we will see. So now we get to deal with masking in an image editor. Masking, it's my favorite. If you can work non-destructively, that's always going to be your best bet. So I could just go in here and erase all of this stuff on every single layer, but that would be one, slow, and two, very destructive if I wanted to like actually undo something. Maybe I made a mistake. Don't forget, we need our UVs. So I'll pull those in too. There they are. This is our little guideline. So I'll just kind of set it to multiply and make it like very light, just so I know where I'm going. And we know that these ones are basically the same as they were on the other map, so we're not gonna have to move them. We will have to move some stuff over here, and we will have to cut out some of the dark shape right there. So we'll start with our pot diffuses. So they're all in a folder. And since they're all in a folder and they're all perfectly on top of each other, I can just turn them on and off. We just need to tell Photoshop or whatever image program you're using what I want to see and what I don't want to see. So create a mask. You can do that by coming down here to this little sort of black circle and white square. That'll create a white mask. So it hasn't done anything yet, but you can still kind of see, you can still see everything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the marquee tool over here. I do it by hitting M, and then we're gonna kind of make a mask. I'm holding down shift to add more of these little squares. And it's kind of hard to see the other one. So I'll just get this whole thing right now and I'll come back and unmask that. So now that I've selected all the parts I want to disappear, I'm gonna hit G or come over to paint bucket over here and make sure it is black. You have basically the range of white to black when you're working in masks, 0 to 100. White is perfectly visible, black is perfectly hidden, and gray is everywhere in between. So I just want black, and I'm gonna click in that mask and I'm gonna make that stuff disappear. So now that's nice and clean. And what I'll also do, I'll come back to the bottom of our pot, the poor little bottom of our pot that we made super small. And I'll fill that in with white again, just so it doesn't feel like it's not included. All right, next step is our leaves. Now our leaves are underneath, and you can see that these ones are pretty okay, and we don't have to touch those. I did touch them when I was moving stuff around, so I'm kind of wondering, are they actually okay? Also, I just noticed with this part of the mask over here, wait, is that? Okay, cool, that's just something we're gonna have to move around. So I have duplicated this group of leaves, so I have two on top of each other. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna hit, go back to our marquee tool with M, just select kind of the leaves I need on this side at least. I'm gonna make sort of a selection. I'm holding on Alt to deselect parts of my selection. So Shift to add, Alt to subtract. And I have only selected the parts I want, so I'm just gonna hit mask again. So if you already have a marquee going, if you hit mask, it'll automatically mask it to that marquee. Now, the next one we need to do is we rotated these leaves. So these two leaves need to get rotated and put next to each other. So basically, we're gonna need a mask for this leaf. Hooray, okay. And then a mask for this leaf. You know, it's super fun. You could also just like kind of find those leaves on your mesh and delete them if you really don't want to deal with that, but it's fine. I'm going to select both of these groups with Shift, hit Control T to rotate, and it's going to be rotating the whole thing, but I'm holding down Shift and rotating in Photoshop so it kind of snaps it. And then we have to basically fill these in. So the way I'm looking at they built these leaves, I think I actually have to go the other way. Like that. Because I think that what happens is this kind of goes like that. And I've lost the other one, so I don't want to lose the other one just yet. And then I'll just kind of stack these next to each other and we'll move them closer. Kind of get them situated. We'll try that. That seems kind of correct. And then that way, then I can bring my UVs to the top. Like that. And let's make a pleasant little color combo. I'm not going to go through like doing a bunch of colors on this, but we can make something nice. Like what's I do like the pink swatch a lot. I think that's nice, very lovely. And then on our other ones, they're basically just gonna have to make a match. Oh, that's very pretty. Let's do that one, swatch 10. I'm just hiding the other ones, so I'm just gonna kind of hide that stuff. Not too worried about the pot though. But with leaves and stuff like that, you might get some funny looking shadows on the edges of them. So we'll try that. That'll be our kind of control. And I usually just call this like O1 or diffuse or something. And then I'll come back to our working file, go to our diffuse, and I will just kind of I'll just put it right on top of the old one. And now you can see, there it is. It looks like something. I mean, the game textures aren't like, you know, super impressive. Like it was blurry to begin with, so you can't blame that one on me. But if you wanted to put something together, that's how you would do it. And if you wanted to combine normals, what I would do in that situation is I already have these set up, these masks set up here. So actually let's do that. Let's call the fuse. I'm gonna give this something a go. And we'll call this normals. So what I'm going to do, since we have pulled those resources, is I'm just going to I'm going to right click this, and this is when we get into smart objects, so it's a little bit trickier, but I think it should work really well unless they've resized it to an odd size, which often happens, but it's already super small. Yay, what can we do? So I'm just going to go and replace contents with, there we go, watch resources. Normal map. Yes. Okay, so it's lying on top of it. So I just went in, since it's a smart object, I can just kind of swap out images as I please with it. And you can make anything a smart object. You just have to right click it and hit convert to smart object, but these ones are obviously already there. So then what I'll do something very similar. These guys. Also, first I'll double check that there is actually a bump for our other plant. So I'm not doing something. Yeah, okay, cool. So they got a bump set up for that. I'll do something very similar. I'll do smart object via copy, and then I'll go ahead and I will replace contents, because if you don't copy it, you have to do this new smart object via copy, otherwise you're just going to be replacing your swatch, which is kind of annoying. Plant. So there we go. Now it's just sitting nicely on top like that. And I know this is getting a little bit confusing. You could see what it's starting to happen. And since we already moved these where we wanted them, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Smart object via copy. Yeah, convert to smart object is the other one. And then we are going to replace. And since we've already done the transforming, we don't have to worry about redoing it or lining anything up. It's already there. We've already done it. Let me put a bit of gray under this so you can kind of see what's actually happening, because normals are very transparent. But yes, now you can see that this stuff is all here, and I will do it for our other leaf as well. Choose that one. And we will once again replace contents with our little leafy. Did I replace this one with a strange one, or just double checking. Nope, that's what it's supposed to look like, supposedly. All right, I believe you. Okay, cool. So these are our normals for now. And you can see there's some holes in these when we put like the stuff on top. So what we can do is I'm just gonna fill any blank space with our pot normals. So I'm gonna just hold down Control and I'm clicking on these masks and Control Shift, and I can get all the other ones as well. So, and then I'm just gonna hit Control Shift I. I'm going to delete our pot mask and then mask it again so that there are no gaps. And I can see these two are overlapping and making a darker spot, which could be a problem for us. So I'm just going to find the bigger one. Yeah, I'll just go into this mask here while I have this one selected. So I'm gonna go into this mask with this one selected, and I'm just gonna paint out with black. It's a little advanced, I apologize, so that I don't see any sort of extra striping anywhere. Looks fine. Then we can just save this as a PNG because it's just EA normals. So you're not doing anything special there. It's just kind of slapping them all together so it looks nice. So we'll put that into our pot. That's still suspicious to me. I'm gonna leave it. It's fine. It's a demonstration. But then all of these will share the same normals. So when you go and do the rest of the swatches, it'll look correct in the game. This is our specular. You would basically do the same thing you just did with the normals with the specular as well. I'm not gonna do that right now, but kind of saw how I did it. I'm sure there's way better ways to do it, but that just makes sense in my head. So that's how, if you wanted to Frankenmesh two things together, how you would do that. Moving on. But yes, there is our new pot.